you see the real work and the real business, say, over the next 2 to 3 years? Because I guess there's places like Mauritius, for example, that have had very good communication plans and then have not seen the work materialize. So where do you see it coming from?
Let me start by saying we got the work first before we started to talk, frankly. So what we did is that we drew the vision, we put the programs to back the vision, we started to execute, and then we started to talk to the world. So what you see today is a reality, like a smart village which you are in, and tomorrow you will visit. What you see is Itida is established. Itida is part of the vision because we wanted to make sure that any program, any enablement program we will put in place will be executed to the standard the international market would need. So we said we wanted a body to have nothing to do except to focus to execute, and would have the money to make sure that it will be executed at the high level we want, and that it cannot disappear. So it came out, Itida came out by law, and the funding coming from the industry, from the mobile companies and the telecom companies. So now we know that for sure that any enablement programs we will put are going to be a reality. So when you say, where is the work is coming from both the multinational, which we are attracting to use Egypt as an outsourcing location, and or the national, which are growing. You heard some of them today on the panel, like IT Works, is growing. The humble growth is talking about 25 and 30%. So we still, it's a country which is starting, but it's growing. So the work is coming from Europe, multinationals, so Europe as a market, and then the large multinationals, coming from the States and India and Europe. And then the Egyptian investors and the providers, which are growing, like Raya, Exceed, IT Works. We have several examples.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And at the moment, what's your mix of BPO compared to ITO then?
ITO is well established in the country for years now. As you heard, we have a history of something like more than 20 years actually, because we started to work in ITO when IBM came and developed the first Arabic-English terminal. That was in the 70s. And since then, other multinationals started to see the potential in Egypt. So they used programmers in Egypt to develop what is called at the time BiDi and multilinguality. And then eventually, they started to use the programmers to develop, let's say, vertical solutions. The Gulf countries started to use our professionals to develop solutions, customized software, and so on. So the history is there. So we have more ITO companies. We don't have large. The majority of the Egyptian industry in the IT area is actually SMEs.
Right.
So you will find many, many companies in the hundreds. You don't see the large ones in the approaching the 1,000 in the IT would be IT Works, IBM Development Center, EDS, but not. We don't have the large ones like, when you say the tens of thousands and so on. But we have so many of the SMEs.
Okay. And so a lot of the discussion today was on BPO as well. And so do you think that maybe as an action, you will be stimulating ITO to make some of the SME suppliers larger and more focused on being able to bid for larger contracts?
What we have done is that we created the BPO industry. It didn't exist organically. The ITO started organically. And when we assessed the country capabilities, we found out that we have a great opportunity to create a new line of business. If you look at our strategy, which was announced on the 8th of June 2006, you will find that we said we will have a dual path, and we will have a paradigm shift where we created a new industry called BPO. So you will find that when we created that industry, we went for the big thing. So the starting point will be companies like Exceed 2000, and so it's not in the hundreds, it's the thousands. And we are attracting the big multinational to come because we have the talent pool, 330,000 university graduates every year, with a high unemployment, 17.5% announced government figure. Reality is more. And a lot of underemployed kids, So many of them, you heard Adil was saying, many of them will come from other industries, like from tourism, because they speak good languages, German, French, and Italian and Spanish and so on, and they want a permanent job. They don't want to go and work in the resorts and get, hotel industry is not a job which is really as good as when they come and work in the BPO centers and so on. So yes, we are focused to grow the BPO industry, and the ITO is growing and so on. We will help it also, but we are focused to keep pumping more and more of the talent pool toward the BPO.
So are you particularly focused on promoting Egypt as an ITES destination then to particular industry sectors?
Specifically, of course, we are targeting finance, F&A, in addition to the voice and the technical support, which is always debated whether this is an ITO or BPO. The technical support part we are very good at. We have already now 2-3 large centers. I will give you one example. Orange today, they have 1,600 engineers doing technical support for their network worldwide. 24/7, they are supporting 22 languages. And 8 hours of the day, it's a follow the sun concept coming from Australia, 8 hours, Egypt, 8 hours, and then the States, 8 hours. So we have this as a sweet spot in the country. When we talk about other lines of business, then we are talking about, yes, F&A, HR. Those are the two main areas we are targeting, yes.
Okay. And one of the things that you mentioned just a minute ago was about quite a high proportion of the IT sector is SME. So that would mean that they should be ideally placed to compete for SME business from SMEs in a client country, much more so than perhaps, say, an IBM or an Indian giant IT company. Is that some area that you're looking to stimulate?
Yes, SMEs, we have several programs to support them and stimulate them. We take them with us into exhibitions and fairs, to the target markets. For the SMEs, we basically focus on the Gulf area because it is not easy for an European company to use an unknown company in Egypt, and or they are used by the multinational as subcontracted, to address the international opportunities, with the exception of probably 4 or 5 of them, like IT Works already have worked in the States, IT Soft also, and then we have Raya. Those are 3, in the range of the 1,000, and they have good, footprint into the European and the American market, which can give them more references to sell. We have several niche companies, specialized in telephony, for instance. So we have 2 or 3 of those. We have some doing a very high level of development in the area of architecture, and we have some in the area of design. But again, those are small few examples. But the big ones, I would say, are the multinationals supporting the SMEs to address international market.
Okay, and then just finally, on the question of where is the foreign revenue going to come from? I mean, if you had to approximately split between the Gulf, the US, and European Union, how would you see the split? Or do you see that there's going to be a great increase in one particular market?
The present situation now, the largest revenue is coming from Europe, even by the multinationals. So many of the multinationals, even when they address the world, they address Europe from Egypt because of the multilinguality. Some of them still address the States, but the major bulk comes from Europe when it comes to enablement service. If you're talking about the ITO, I would say probably it's the States, and then the Gulf would be number 2.